Have you ever stopped to think that if Athena's 88 armors were forged by the alchemists from the continent of Mu? Who created the scales of the Marina generals? Who had the divine skill to hammer the orichalcum and create these garments for Poseidon's army? Long before any bronze saint even dreamed of existing? Hello, Knights of Amazon. Welcome to the channel. Always wanted to know? And in today's video, we're going to talk about the origin of the scales of Poseidon's army and his marine generals. Let's understand the origin of the Arcane scales, the primordial and extremely powerful versions that were recently revealed in the manga Saint Seiya Rise of Poseidon. And if you're a fan of Knights and enjoy details that expand the official story, go ahead and click like. Subscribe to the channel and let's get into this awesome video. To understand who forged the general's scales, we first need to put into context where this information came from. Forget about the Hades saga for a moment. In the manga Rise of Poseidon, Earth is facing an unprecedented threat, with Hades defeated and the underworld collapsing. The goddess of retribution, Nemesis, decides that humanity has already given all it could and chooses to punish the world with a catastrophic meteor shower. Since Athena and her knights are, let's say, unavailable, still trapped in the underworld after the battle in the Elysian fields, the ones left to save the day are exactly Poseidon and his Marina generals. It's in this desperate scenario that the original scales, the so-called Arcane scales, come into play. They are not just the armors of the Marinas. They are the ultimate manifestation of Poseidon's will, and have an origin story that goes back to the very first holy war in history. At the beginning of the story, Hades' soul awakens Poseidon's soul and frees him from Athena's seal. Hades also brings back to life the 6 Marina generals who were dead. Canaan and the others are resurrected with scales shaped like sapores, just as Saga, Camus, and Shura were resurrected with armors shaped like sapores in the classic saga. After that, the scales receive Poseidon's blood, who once again takes control of Julian Solo's body. As a result, they regain that orange glow and are regenerated. And when the Marina generals awaken their cosmos to infinity in battle, they manage to awaken the arcane form of these scales, which would actually be their true forms from the mythological era. And before we reveal who the blacksmith behind the creation of these armors was, let's refresh our memory about who these warriors are that wear the scales. Each of them protects one of the 7 pillars that support the world's oceans. Sorrento of Siren, the survivor of the classic saga, a musician whose notes can reduce the enemy's cosmos to 1%. He was born in Austria and is one of the most loyal Marinas to Julian Solo in Rise of Poseidon. He remains the voice of reason and the moral pillar of the Marina army. Bayan of Seahorse, the protector of the North Pacific. Known for his air manipulation techniques, such as the divine breath and the butterfly effect, Bayan believes that his defense is impenetrable, almost like that of a gold saint. And Odysseila, the guardian of the South Pacific, a versatile warrior who can summon 6 different beasts: eagle, wolf, bee, serpent, bat, and bear. His armor is one of the most visually complex, representing the mythological monster Scylla. Krishna of Chrysor, the guardian of the Indian Ocean. He doesn't use the cosmos in the same way as the others. He uses the Mahahoshini, a spiritual energy derived from his chakras. His golden spear is said to be able to pierce anything, at least until the appearance of the Arcane scales. House of Lemonades, the master of illusions of the Antarctic Ocean. Often underestimated, he is perhaps the most dangerous because he attacks the hearts of his opponents, transforming into those they love the most. Isaac of Kraken, the protector of the Arctic Ocean, former training partner of Cygnus Hyoga. Isaac has a relentless sense of justice, believing that only absolute strength can cleanse the world. Canon of Sea Dragon, the man who deceived a god. Although he redeemed himself as the Gemini Saint, his history as a Marina general is the foundation of all the modern conflict in Saint Seiya. Now let's get to the main point everyone wants to know. In the traditional hypermyth, we learn that Athena's armors were created on the continent of Mu in Lemuria, using orichalcum, germanium, and stardust. But Poseidon was the first god to create protections for his warriors, long before Athena, according to the revelations of He Rise of Poseidon. We come to the conclusion that the first scales, these arcane versions we see now, were not the work of human hands or Muvian's alchemists. They were forged by the Cyclops, the legendary divine blacksmiths who lived in the depths of Poseidon's realm. Unlike Athena's armors, which are tools given to humans to protect peace, the arcane scales were created as extensions of the ocean's own organic essence. In the mythology expanded by the manga, the arcane scales are described as having a life of their own, much more latent. They not only protect the body, but also fuse the spirit of the Marina with the primordial memory of the sea creatures they represent, choosing the most powerful warriors of the seven seas to be their users. When Poseidon decided to face Athena in the first holy war of the mythological era, he ordered his divine craftsmen to create protections that were superior to any metal found on the surface. The orichalcum used in Poseidon's scales is said to be pure orichalcum, or abyssal orichalcum, harvested directly from the heart of the lost land of Atlantis. You might be wondering if the arcane scales are the originals, since the generals wore simpler versions in the classic saga. And the answer is fascinating and a bit tragic. Over the millennia and with Poseidon's successive defeats, Athena's seal and the weakening of the god's cosmos caused the scales to fall into slumber. What we saw in the classic saga were weakened versions, almost as if they were just the skeleton of what they once were. They appeared in the manga Rise of Poseidon to face the spirits of the warriors, known as spirits of retribution, or simply spirit warriors. Julian Solo fully unleashes his divine cosmos and also pours his blood onto the scales, giving them the possibility to return to their original form. Also, the Marina General's cosmos was at its peak power. This causes the scales to awaken and return to their arcane form. The arcane scales are much more ornate and aggressive. They cover almost the entire body, have details that resemble fins and more prominent claws as well as wings, something that closely resembles the divine armors of Athena's knights. The shine of orichalcum is described as something that emulates the very sunlight filtered through deep waters. For example, Krishna's arcane scale gains details that resemble Hindu deities in a much more pronounced way. The sirens becomes more angelic and at the same time more intimidating, reflecting the dual nature of mythological sirens who lured sailors to their deaths. The divine material, which is the orichalcum of the arcane scale, is so resistant that in its arcane form, it is virtually indestructible by human hands. Only the power of a god or a blow that reaches the divine level can crack this protection. What intrigues many is the return of Canaan. Although Canaan died in the Hades saga, his influence over the scales is still felt. The Marine Kingdom preserves the memory of those who wore its protections, and this is explored in the way the armors react to new challenges. Therefore, Canaan is basically exactly recognized as the sea dragon of this new era. He is accepted by his fellow mariners and fights this new battle alongside them. And from Poseidon, does Canaan then manage to redeem himself with Poseidon and the others, just as he did with Athena and the Gold Saints? And speaking of the origin of the names, many of the creatures that the scales represent, like Kraken or Alamnades, are not just monsters, but minor deities or nature spirits, which the Cyclopes imprisoned in the armors. During the forging in the mythological era, the scales also have a connection with Atlantis. The original forging site was the Great Forge of Atlantis, which was destroyed when the city sank. This explains why Poseidon can't simply create new arcane scales if the current ones are destroyed. He needs to restore the ones that already exist. Unlike Sarikido, who was born as the reincarnation of Athena, Julian Solo is a host. However, in Heroes of Poseidon, we see a much greater symbiosis. Julian Solo is not just a vessel. He apparently accepts the burden of being the emperor of the seas to protect the world that, ironically, he tried to flood in the past. This change in attitude is what allows the arcane scales to manifest. Poseidon's cosmos, when motivated by the genuine desire to save the Earth, even if for a personal reason, where his idea is that the world belongs to him and no one messes with it. Besides him, it reaches a frequency that resonates with the work of the Cyclopes from ages ago. Trying to understand who forged the arcane scales makes us realize that the universe of Saint Seiya is much vaster than just Athena's sanctuary. Poseidon, with his divine technology from Atlantis and his Cyclops blacksmiths, created an army that, at its peak, could rival Olympus. The revelation of the arcane scales in Heroes of Poseidon is a gift for fans, who have always wanted to see the Marina Generals shine with the same prominence as the Gold Saints. We learn more about each one's past and origin, and we realize that they are not just villains of this saga. They are warriors with a mythological heritage as rich as any other. What did you think about the origin of the scales? Do you agree with my theory? Do you think the arcane scales are visually superior to Athena's divine armors? Or do you prefer the classic design? The story of Saint Seiya never stops surprising us. And it's this depth that keeps the franchise alive, even after so many decades. Thanks for watching until the end. See you next time. Burn your cosmos to infinity.